So, welcome back to the Between Breaths podcast. Those that were following along at the weekend, I am alive and we are here, and the podcast is back. The podcast has been a little bit quiet, but I would say in this episode, we're going to take a little bit of we're going to unpick what happened at the weekend. And for those that weren't on socials looking around what's going on, it was the Snowdon 24 event. So that is 24 hours to run up and down Yr Wyddfa, aka the mountain, aka Snowdon, as many times as you can in 24 hours. We're going to go into that, but just to whet your appetite, we've got some fantastic guests in the diary lined up for the next few weeks. So there will be more regular podcasts back again after this one as well. And I thank you for all of the kind messages that I've had about the podcast since we started. I'm excited to bring you back some more amazing guests, and then also in this episode share with you some honest reflections and learnings from the Snowdon 24 event. That's what this episode is about. Learned a lot, and I can't wait to share those things with you so that you can take them into maybe your own training or interested in your own life, because that's one of the things I love about the ultra running events or ultra events is that we learn so much about ourselves, not just physically but also mentally, and I could even go as far as to say spiritually, I'm sure, through them. And so I think the lessons that we learn around our training in these things, actually what gets really exciting for me is, yes, it's great to then learn and take that into your next event if you're going to do another event, or you don't always have to do another event. It's one of the things people go, what are you doing next? What are you going to do is harder? And it's like, well, it doesn't always have to be next and harder. Well, that's my little philosophy anyway. But understanding that we can take those lessons, or the richness in it is taking those lessons and go, how does that apply to other areas of my life, not just these running events or these ultra events or the exercise that I take part in? Where can I take these into my life to enrich my life and the life of those people around me? And maybe if you're lucky enough to be really influential, the world, let's say. But we've got to dream big, haven't we? So that's what we're going to get into in this episode. I just wanted to thank, big shout out and a big thanks to the podcast sponsors. You know that I've been using HMN24, the hydration sachets. These came in exceptionally vital during this event. So in my camel pack, in my drink pack, like one of these went in, brand new one went in for every rep that I did, and I must have got through litre and a half of water with the electrolytes in for each rep. And actually I was thinking, where's this coming from? I'd not had it in such a long time. I felt like on the second rep, I felt like I was going to like maybe get a bit of cramp, and I was like, I've not been getting any cramp since I've been using the electrolytes. So I was like, what's going on? It's only the second rep. I'm planning to do 8, but trusted the process, got the electrolytes on board, and there was no cramp, I'm pleased to say and happy to say. So thank you to the HMN24 for sponsoring the podcast, but also getting me through another ultra event. And if you, as a Between Breaths podcast listener, would like to get 10% off and try out the HMN24 hydration sachets for your own hydration, your own training, use code JACO10 for 10% off. So that's JACO10 for 10% off at HMN24. And yeah, we'll take a deep dive into this week's Snowdon 24 special. We enter this world taking our first breath, and sadly, we leave this place taking our last. And what I want to do with this podcast is to explore what happens between those breaths. I'm David Jackson, Jacko, and this is the Between Breaths podcast. So let's just set the scene. Snowdon 24. You go up the Llanberis path, and it is a 10-mile loop or a lap. I call it a rep because you're just going up and back down. So it's 5 miles up, 5 miles back down, about 16 kilometers in total, with just under 1,000 meters, but we'll round it up because it sounds like 1,000 meters of elevation for each repetition. Last year I did 6 and I came back for more. Last year my enthusiastic naivety got my ass kicked by the mountain. And yeah, by rep five, I was in a world of trouble and sort of crawled up and down in 4.5 hours, which is exceptionally slow for a sixth rep, and I was done. I was toast. So I thought I'd learned some lessons, and I came back with a very different plan. Well, not a different plan, but a detailed plan. And actually, what I would say is I came up with an actual plan rather than just a hope of doing 8 reps. And what I shared recently on social media, and we'll go in a bit more detail now, is that that plan, the detail in that plan, allowed me to be so focused that I didn't know what time it was, what day it was. And when it got dark, I knew that it was nighttime, but didn't even get tired. I had a little bit of coffee, had one can, or 3/4 of a can of Red Bull. Didn't even have like that much caffeine at all. In reality, over the course of a 24-hour period, and the focus I had on just these 8 reps. So that was the plan this year. Last year's winner did 8 reps. So I was like, again, my enthusiastic naivety was like, well, I want to be up there with the big boys. And I want to put into place some of the principles around regulating your nervous system with your breathing, and see whether I can mix it with the big boys. So bearing in mind, I've got like 2 years experience of running these types of events. That's it. And I did start I played 13 years of professional rugby, but retired in 2013 from a brain injury, and that brain injury put me out of any running action for a year. And actually, when I started to back running again, I really didn't like running. 5 or 10k was like a real push, and I just didn't enjoy it. But I got back into running as a way to train my breathing, which was a really important aspect of my brain health recovery that I've spoken about before. So I don't have that much experience in reality of these things, but that enthusiasm combined with a little dash of naivety was like, well, winner last year today, I want to do 8. And I didn't just want to do 8, I made a plan. And to be fair to me, I trained my ass off. We moved to Snowdonia, so we literally live like behind us is like the mountain. You can see on a clear day, you can see the top of Snowdon from just up the hill. And so training was like, you couldn't get any more specific, because I was able to, I think I'd gone up 17, 18, maybe 19 times already this year before the event started, up that exact path. So I knew every inch of that path. I was like, I'm gonna be so detailed with my planning that I know exactly what I'm going to do and how long it takes me to do a good rep, how long it takes me to do a tired rep, what can I back up multiple reps in a row. And I guess one of the things that was really important, I made up my own checkpoints, because there was no checkpoints. There was just like base camp in Llanberis, and then there was the top, and that was it. So I made, those that know that route, there's like 2 gates at the start, and then you go under the railway bridge, then you get to halfway house, then there's the stairway to heaven, and then you go under the railway bridge again, and then you get to that last steep bit, and then you're sort of there. I had checkpoints at each of those sections that I've mentioned: the two gates, the railway line, halfway house, stairway to heaven, the railway line again, the hard top bit. And they were between 10 and 15 minutes apart. So I just knew, I set my watch, this is a little tip that I do all the time now of these things, is like, I did not know what time it was. All I knew was it was 5 minutes since we started, and I've got another 5 minutes to get to the next checkpoint. So each rep on my like Garmin watch was just reset each time. So there was I didn't know when it came to like 22 hours into the race, I didn't know I'd been running for 22 hours. I knew I'd been running for 55 minutes since the last start of the last rep. And that mentally is something that I learned from the Ring of Fire, really helpful. So that detail of the plan was exceptional for providing focus and an anchor to come back to. One thing I said I sort of was a little bit ballsy in that I put it out on, well, I had to make a plan and put it out there on social media. I was like, these are the 8 reps, because I was asking, one of the things I'd learned from the Ring of Fire was I was asking people to come and do a rep with me, because I knew support is so critical on these things. So I wanted someone to come for each rep. And we did have people come for each rep. Liam, shout out, he did 2 of them. We had Malim, we had John, and we had Dan and Catherine, aka Mrs. Jacko. She did 2 reps as well, and then Angelo did the first one with me. He actually signed up and did 3 reps himself, and just took part in the event. Now, that though meant that I had to have my estimated times for the start of each one, because these people were going to come and join in. Luckily, they were enthusiastic as well themselves, so they came a little early, because I was about half an hour. I managed to make myself about a 30, 35, 40 minute buffer throughout quite a few of the reps. So I was a little ahead of schedule, which felt amazing. But in all honesty, the plan was built in with like just being slightly ahead of schedule, because that just gives you a little bit of a little bit of the lift. And I actually finished 25 minutes ahead of schedule, so I lost 5 or 10 minutes towards the end of the race, but had built that buffer in. So I felt like I knew exactly where I was going. I knew where I had to be every 10-15 minutes. I knew every inch of the path, and I knew that I had support. But in order to create that plan, I had to be a bit ballsy, to be like, it was like putting it out there, like, this is what I'm going to do. But I trusted the process, and I wanted to prove to myself and also show that when we use our breathing to regulate our nervous system for an event like this, that's going to have like a massive knock-on effect in the thing, but also afterwards. So within 24 hours, I was feeling good again, like afterwards, like recovery-wise. Like I was so been pleasantly surprised about how good I was feeling. I was coaching down in London yesterday, which was Tuesday. The event finished on Sunday morning, and I was running up slowly, but running up the escalators on the underground. Whilst everyone else is stood there standing still, I'm thinking, I ran up from in Snowdon 8 times 2 days ago. Obviously, I didn't say that out loud. It's just in my head, make myself feel good. But yeah, the just lost my train of thought. Sorry. The plan gave me a significant level of focus to always come back to. The support was fantastic, but I had to put it out there to go like, this is what I'm going to do. So, and it was really nice actually at the event. Like, quite a few people had seen the video that I posted like last year, and like basically everyone there sort of knew what I was planning to do. The good news is that I did the 8 reps. I didn't come anywhere near the front runners, because some better runners came than last year. People that did well last year stepped up their game as well. And there was 5 people did 9 reps. And I did not, I actually said, I saw someone on the Friday night when we were doing the pre-register, and he goes, yeah, my mate's going to do 9, he reckons. Like, he did 8 last year, he reckons he's going to do 9. I was like, 9? I actually said to him, it's impossible to do 9. But fair play, if you do 9, you're going to win. And 5 of them did 9. Anyway, there was 4 of us did 8, so, and I was the slowest of those to do 8. So I came 9th, which I was really, really pleased with overall, because the reality was I wanted to do my 8 reps. It didn't really matter where I came. I think I was just wishfully hoping that maybe 8 reps was going to get me a little bit higher. But a top 10 finish for Jacko is very, yeah, I'm happy with that. And the most important thing was proving to myself that something I believe to be true, which is I believe that we are far more capable and far greater than we allow ourselves to believe. And I've experienced this through these types of events, and trying to allow that then to transcend out into other areas of your life is then really the next step. So when people say, what's next? I need to start answering like this. Is really good. It's just a good thought that I've had. What's next? They're thinking like, what's the next event you're going to do? And I've got the Yr Wyddfa marathon, so the Snowdonia marathon in October, and I've got something big. All of this is base work for something that's so big that I need 2 years to train for it. So there's an event, a challenge. It's not an event, it's a challenge I'm creating for myself, which will be in 2026. But what's next is, well, I want to take what I've learned about myself and this process and take it into other areas of my life. So the biggest thing that I came away from, I guess, from this event is there's always more lessons to be learned. So last year I thought I'd learned my lessons, or for last year's event I thought I'd learned my lessons from the Ring of Fire. And I'd learned maybe, let's say, half of them, it doesn't matter, but I'd learned some lessons, but there was more to be learned, and I learned more again, and the detail of the plan and how much focus, it was almost like the more detailed the plan, the more focused it allows you to be. And one thing I knew from before was getting complacent, as in, like, last year when I did my 4th rep, I was like, I actually feel all right after 4. And then the wheels fell off. As soon as I felt good, the wheels fell off. As soon as I felt good and like got a bit complacent, the wheels literally just fell off. And in the week leading up to this year's event, I had this sort of thought or feeling or idea that I need to ensure that I don't allow myself to think too much, because I felt like as soon as you start thinking too much and you start telling yourself various different stories, they can be a lot of negative, wasted energy, often when you're feeling a bit under the pump and a bit sore and a bit painful during these types of events. So I sort of wrote a tweet or a thing, whatever, on socials, saying that stories of the mind are wasted energy in thought, which I really resonated with me. And I actually, probably the worst stages for my mind wandering and telling various different stories was really early on, particularly in the first rep. First rep felt really hard, and you're just so far away from doing 8 when you're doing 1, 2, 3 that it's very easy for the mind to wander. And I just kept coming back to that plan. It was like, right, what's the plan? The plan is we're on rep whatever. So it's the first rep, right? This is the first rep. Where have I got to be? Where's the next checkpoint? Right, it's the railway, whatever. At what time is it? It's 55 minutes, right? I'm supposed to be there in another 5 minutes. Let's get that done. And as we get to that one, then you just go to the next one, then to the next one. And it gave a level of focus I just did not appreciate that level of planning could do that. So it might sound a bit sort of obvious and cliche and a bit Boy Scouty, but like having a plan, the power of a plan is what I've experienced there. Incredible. And so the thing that I guess I've been reflecting on and that what's next is, well, where am I just hoping and wishing for things in other areas of my life that would actually benefit from a plan? Where have I got sort of loose plans for things that would benefit from having a more detailed plan? And trying to find those things and put them into place. I think that there's too often in life that and I do this all the time, trying to do less and less of it as you realize more and more, that we're too often led to believe or searching for more complicated things, whereas like the simple things are right there in front of us, and that's all that we need to do. So it's like, like if I listened to this podcast episode now, if I listened to this like 10 years ago, I'd have been like, oh, make a plan. That's a bit boring and not very, it's not sexy enough. It's not complicated enough to like really have that much impact. And it was like, no, the simplicity of a detailed plan, if it feels simple to do, it's like, brilliant, get on and do it. Make the plan, make it as detailed as possible, break it down, and then go out and deliver it. So that would be my message from this podcast. I went into some details about what I've done in training, etc., for in the last episode, so you can go back and look at, if you were hoping for more like training advice, that's in the previous episode. This one is about having something that we believe in, having something that you believe in. I believe that we are far greater and more capable than we allow ourselves to believe. And I also believe that with control of our breathing, we can regulate our nervous system, and my Strava stats of my heart rate will show you that, and that will have an impact on performance and have an impact on recovery. And I feel like that's exactly what this event has shown. They were the things that I was wanting to do to sort of prove, let's say, but the lessons learned is the power of the plan. And then you add that to the lessons from the Ring of Fire, which was support, having people around you that you can rely on, that you can be totally vulnerable and reliant upon. And anyone that read my social media post will see that happened at the end of rep 7, as I rang up Mrs. Jacko to come and do the last rep with me. Having that there, it's like the safety net. It's like you get on the bat phone, Catherine, I'm struggling, I need you. And she'd had 2 hours sleep because she'd done the rep 6 with me, and then comes, meets me, and she's bouncing up and down, brings energy, and I just know how much I can depend on her, and whether it's physical or mental or otherwise. For this, she was just 5 minutes ahead. Just follow her, just follow her, stick with her, stick with her, stick with her. And we got there, we got up, we got down, with 25 minutes to spare. And yeah, with the power of a plan and the power of support, we can achieve greater things than we ever thought possible together. And that draws a close to this podcast episode. I would love to hear from you if that sort of resonates or makes any sense, and you could feel like, okay, yeah, there's some areas in my life where I don't have a plan at all, or yeah, I need to make some more detailed plans for this, that, the other. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to hear your actions of where you may put some of these things into place. And likewise, if you're doing some sort of ultra event, or you want to do Snowdon 24 next year, or some people are doing Ring of Fire this year, and you want to reach out and you want a bit of a pep talk or a bit of advice, I'd be more than happy. So reach out on socials. Jacko.david.jackson is me on Instagram. That's probably the best place to find me. And so thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. If you're on YouTube, and I've got some great guests coming up for you in the next few weeks. So keep an eye out for the next few podcasts. You've been breathing. I've been Jacko. Till next time. Keep it nasal.